Chapter 8.
8.0.
8.1. Which you can be thankful for that because chapter 7 is the hardest chapter. Huh? No, chapter 8 fits really well into this week. And it's midterms, so all my grades are due on Friday. Chapter 7 takes like a week and a half to do, so we're going to do it next week. We're just moving around. Chapter 7, though is difficult, is really important for your state test, and you have a couple weeks until your state test, so we have to cover it before. We're going to leave this easiest chapter for last, which is chapter 10. Just days, not counting the weekends. I'm not counting the weekends. 28. So 26th, 27th of May is your last day, yeah. So 4 weeks of school, which is more than 4 weeks because we're midterms this week, so you really have 6 weeks left, but number of days wise, it's 28 days. 6 full weeks, but 28 days. That's not bad at all. We just have to get through it. But we have like 1, 2, 3, 4 chapters left. But chapter 10 is the easiest chapter. And I saved it for after your state test because it's not actually on the state test, but we have to do something after your state test is done. Because it's against the rules. No, because you've not gotten 100s this whole time, so I'd never give you 100s now. This is not. You wouldn't even deserve that. So we're doing 8.1. We are adding and subtracting polynomials. Poly, P-O-L-Y, no meals, M-I-A-L-S. Polynomials. It's pronounced meals like the food, not miles.
Well, meals is spelled M-E-A-L.
I know. Because that's actually how this is spelled. So we have to learn, this one has a lot of vocabulary because this is like a whole new section. Okay? So a polynomial okay? I'll give you all these things. Is an equation with multiple monomials. Again, there's a definition and one. I'll have to give you what that means. That are called terms. So there's a definition within a definition. They cannot have, like linear equations, things they cannot have. They cannot have negative exponents. That's a chapter we skipped. Variables in the denominator which really means the bottom of a fraction. Variables as exponents. And no square root signs. Those are the things polynomials are not allowed to have. So I'm going to give you all the different types, and then we'll do some practice examples of. So a monomial, I call it it's like mono meal. It only has one term. Write down one term. You do have to be able to identify them by looking at them. I'm going to give you an example. So 3xy. That is a monomial. Monomials, or all the different terms, are separated by addition and subtraction. You see how there's no addition or subtraction here? So that's why there's only one term there, because they're all connected by multiplication. Okay. Another example is just 5x. That's also a monomial because it's one thing just sitting there by itself. Bless you. 5x. It's one term by itself. So think mono means one, because you have to know that. Okay. Next one is binomial. I think of bicycle. Bicycles have how many wheels? 2. So this one's going to be 2 terms. Bicycle, 2 terms. Here's an example. Okay, how about 3x minus 5y? That is a binomial. You see how they're separated by addition or subtraction? 1, 2. Every time you hit addition or subtraction, you count another one. Does that make sense? So then what do you think trinomial is going to be? Yep, like a tricycle. Trinomial means 3 terms. Example, 5x squared minus 2x plus 3. That is a trinomial. And these are the ones you'll see more often. They just have one variable with different powers on them. Remember that 2 is just an exponent, it's just a power. So the first thing we're going to do, I have one more definition for you, and then we're just going to identify them. Last thing is degree. So first, the degree of a monomial, because there's 2 different things. A degree of a monomial, so you're looking at one thing by itself. You add the exponents of variables together. So with a monomial like 3xy, you add the variables exponents together. So x has an exponent of 1 up there. Y has an exponent of 1, so its degree is 2. If you're looking at the degree of a whole polynomial, and polynomial is just a general word for all of these. These are all types of polynomials. That's like saying these are all animals, and then there's different types of animals. Okay. So polynomial, you pick the greatest monomial degree. So you only pick the biggest one. We don't care about all of them. We only pick the biggest one. And we're going to practice all of that we just wrote down. So this is what it says. Determine if it is a polynomial. So you say yes or no. If so if yes, find the degree and name it. So start with something easy. 3x squared y. So the first thing we're going to do is see if it's a polynomial. So go through the list of things it cannot be. Does it have any negative powers, any negative exponents? No, we're good. Any variables in the bottom of a fraction? No. Any variables as an exponent? So like 3 to the x? No. Does it have any square root signs? No. If it does not have any of that, then yes, it is a polynomial. So I'm going to write yes. Okay. What kind of polynomial is this? Is it a monomial, binomial, or trinomial? It's monomial. How do you know that? There's only one term. There's no addition or subtraction. So I'm going to write monomial. Now we have to figure out the degree. You only look at the variables. So you ignore the 3. This has an exponent of what? What does this have an exponent of? Nah, liar. If it's there, it has an exponent of 1. Degree of a monomial says add the exponents of the variables together. Add the exponents of the variables together. So what number do you get? So my degree is, nope, 3. You just write 3. Degree is 3. We don't care where it came from. You just write the number. I'm going to try another one. How about 6 plus 8xy plus 7x to the 4th? It's a longer one. First, we need to say yes or no. If it's no, we just stop. We can't answer any other questions. Is it a polynomial? Does it have any of the stuff that makes us say no? Does it have negative exponents? Does it have variables in the denominator? Does it have variables as exponents? Does it have a square root sign in it? No. So is it a monomial? Okay, so I'm going to write yes. What kind of polynomial is it? 1, 2, 3. See, count 1. When you see a plus sign, you count another one. 2, 3. Do we see how it's a trinomial? Everybody, yes? So I'm going to write trinomial. Now we need to figure out the degree. So you look at each term. You remember the exponents, the variables tell us. Is there any variables here with this 6? So this degree is 0. So I always above or below just write what its degree is for each little group. So this degree is 0. In the middle one, x has a 1, y has a 1. What's the degree here? 2. Okay. The last one, what's the degree on the variables there? 4. Polynomial says which one is the greatest out of those 3 numbers. Then you would write my degree is 4. I put D is because I get tired of writing degree. So then you just have to write degree is 4. Whichever one's the biggest, that's our answer. If it has more than 3 terms, if it's not named one of these, monomial, binomial, trinomial, we just call them polynomials because they don't have any special names. Okay, let's try, what about this guy? Number 3. How about 7b minus 3a to the negative second power? Try it on your own. Figure out first, yes or no. Is it a polynomial? If the answer is ever no, you need to say why. I like to circle what's wrong. Because sometimes in Alex it makes you click the thing that's wrong. So I like to circle it. Connor, is it a polynomial?
No.
Why not?
Because
Negative 2 and exponent. Do we all figure out that it was no? Okay. Are we allowed to have fractions that have numbers in them? Can I have like 1/2 times x? Is that allowed? But I can't have this, right? Right? We can have fractions as long as the variables are not in the bottom. Just make sure you pay attention. Don't say no to all fractions. Just make sure you're saying no to the right kinds of fractions. Okay? Does that make sense? That is the first half of the homework. Does that make sense? Everybody? Yes, Jesse? Okay. 2 more things. 2 more vocabulary things. Okay? Actually, I'll put it on this board. Why not? Next is standard form. This is the second part of your homework. First part is just naming them. Second part is this. So standard form. What that means, it's not what you think it used to mean. It's much easier. You put the terms in order from greatest degree to least degree. So that problem we just did, not the last one, the one we had all the problems. So this one, 6 plus 8xy plus 7x to the 4th. That problem we just did. We said that degree was 0. That degree was 2. This degree was 4. So we put things in order left to right, yes? Well, it says we want to put these in order left to right. Greatest degree to least degree. So is this in standard form order? Greatest to least, left to right. No, if it said least to greatest, we'd be correct, wouldn't we? Which one's the greatest? 4, the one we chose for the degree, right? So you always write what you picked as your degree first, 7x to the 4th. Once I use it, I cross it out so I don't get confused. What's the next greatest? 8. So you see how there's plus in front of it? So I'm going to keep the plus, 8xy. Okay. What's last? Is it plus or minus? Plus, because a 6 is positive. That is standard form. It should have an EX. Okay, pretty easy. Once you put it in standard form, the last definition is leading coefficient. The leading coefficient is the number, we're talking about the big number, not the exponent number, attached to the degree. Put a period. You can write or in standard form, it's first. If you already have in standard form, it's the first number. It's the big number. It could be a fraction technically. It's the whole number that's attached to whatever the degree is. So if my degree is 4, what's the whole number attached to it? 7. Or once it's in standard form, it's the number that's in front. It's still 7. Right? So standard form, greatest exponent to least exponent. Leading coefficient is the number that's in front. Okay? So here's an example. Put it in standard form. Put in standard form. Identify the leading coefficient. I don't have enough room. I just wrote co. Most of the time, they only have one variable too, so it makes it a lot easier. So, for example, 3x squared plus 4x to the 5th minus 7x. These only have one variable. It makes your life a lot easier. Is this in standard form? No. Jalen, what's the biggest exponent power you see? Yep, so we're going to take everything attached to it and write it first. 4x to the 5th, okay? Use that one. What's next, Risa? What am I going to put in front of it? Okay, plus 3x to the 2nd. Jesse, what's going to be last? Yep, so minus 7x. Now that's in standard form, I'll ask you this question. What's the degree? That's a 5. What's the degree? No, remember, you can't add them together because it's between plus and minus. You only look at one term. It would be 5. What's your leading coefficient? Leading coefficient. 4. And what would we call this guy? How would we name him? Just practicing all those words we used. What kind of polynomial is he? Using his name. Trinomial. So you need to know what these words mean. Let's try another. How about we change our variables? Okay, 5y minus 9 minus 2y to the fourth plus 6y to the third. It already says, put the polynomial in standard form. So it already is a polynomial. We know it. Let's put it in standard form. If you figure out what the degree is, it'll help you figure out who goes first. I'm going to ask you all the same questions as I did the last time. Who has the greatest degree? Who's going to go up front? Negative 2y to the what? Fourth. Gotta say it all. Okay, what's next? Plus 6y to the third. After that? We miss in front of that 5y. Plus 5y. Then what? Minus 9. Okay. What's the degree? First exponent, only x variables added together. Well, there's only one variable in this monomial. So 4. Katie, what's my leading coefficient? Katie? What's the number in front in standard form? That's your answer. In standard form, it's whatever whole number or numbers in front of all the variables. It's not the biggest number, it's whatever number's in front. We don't care who's the biggest when it comes to coefficients. Then, how many terms does it have? 4. How do we name him? You just call it a polynomial because he doesn't have a special name. He can't just be called a monomial because that's 1. Bi is 2. Tri is 3. So since he doesn't have a special name, he's just an animal. He's just a polynomial. Do you need an extra practice problem? Are you sure, Katie? What are you confused by? Okay. 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 Last thing is, what was the title of our notes again? Anybody remember? What's the only thing we haven't done yet? Add and subtract to polynomials. That's the last thing we're going to do, is we're actually going to add and subtract them. The good thing is they only have one variable, like just x's or just y's. They usually keep it with an x and y. I think I have a p in here, okay? I might also still ask you some of these words to get you used to them. When you're done, you should always put it in standard form. Okay, so it's not so bad. And I will do it with you, okay? I'll show you. You ready? So that's the instruction. This is the last part of your homework. Your homework is split up to 3 sections. You know how it says evens? Did you see that on your homework? Evens, 2 through 18. So it looks like a lot of homework, but it's only evens. Okay? So here it is. And they're always written in parentheses, but it's okay. Parentheses. 2x squared plus 5x minus 7. Close that parentheses. Then we're going to go put a plus sign. Okay? Now we're going to put another set. So this is one polynomial. We're going to add it to another. So that's why they put the parentheses. Next one is 3 minus 4x squared plus 6x. Close your parentheses. Okay, so when we do this, every time right away, we have to look at the operation in the middle. It says addition, doesn't it? Right? So right now, when we add things, does the order matter? If I say this plus this, if I say 3 plus 4, does that matter? If I say 4 plus 3, does the order matter? No. So because we have parentheses, but we have nothing outside of them, right? These parentheses, we don't actually need them. So we can rewrite all of this without any parentheses. 2x squared plus 5x minus 7. With subtraction, we will care about the parentheses. I'm just going to bring down my sign. So 3 is positive. So plus 3 minus 4x squared plus 6x. Okay? Now all we're going to do, I'll even use a different color. All we're going to do is, I always start over here. This is the first thing I see, 2x squared. So that has an x squared on it. Does anything else here also have an x squared? Because you can only add like terms. They're still like terms. They just look at anything. Look at these. Does anything else have an x squared on it? The -4. So what I do is I box them. I'm going to box them the same. 1, so that shows I use them, and 2, so I can see it. It helps my eyeballs, okay? So then all you do is add the numbers together. So what is 2 minus 4? Yep, so -2. What do they both have on them that we knew they went together? X squared, so we have to keep the x squared. Okay? That's done. Now we move on to the next one. Now I change my shapes. So now I'm going to circle this one. I always circle the symbol in front of it. So 5x. Does anything else have just an x on it? CJ? Positive 6x. So now I have positive 5x's plus 6x's. So I can do that math. So what's positive 5x's, Jesse, plus 6x's? So I'm going to write plus 11x. And just for funsies, just to make sure, because sometimes things are left alone, I look at the next one. This is a whole number with no variables. Is the other thing that's left a whole number with no variables? Yep, so I can do the same image. If you want, you can even like triangle them, right? You can make different shapes. Because the longer the problems are, the more shapes you'll need. I like to underline the last one. So now I have -7 plus 3. What is -7 plus 3? -4. So then I ask myself after I write it, make sure I used everything in my line, not missing anything. Make sure I copied everything down correctly, right? Is this in standard form? Is my greatest exponent first, then my next lowest one, and then the one that has none? Is it already in standard form? That's why I pick the way I do. I always, when I pick these, I always pick the one that has the greatest exponent first, because then I already put it in standard form. So now my next question for you, and you know what you should know what's going to be. What is my degree of this equation? 2. Because you look at the first term, that one's blue, and see what it is. Risa, what's my leading coefficient? What is the number that leads the equation? Yep. And then Jesse, do you know how many terms does it have? So what would we call that? Good job. See, so we're basically practicing all of it all at once. That's not so bad. Do you want to try another addition one? Or you want to try a subtraction one? Let's try a subtraction one. Okay. Okie dokie. Parentheses. 3 minus 2x plus 2x squared, close your parentheses. Subtraction sign in the middle. 4x minus 5 plus 3x squared. Now, this changes, doesn't it? Because this guy right here. Ooh, wake up, wake up. Who does that negative affect? The guy in front of it or the guy behind it? Behind it. So this really has a -1 right there. Jalen, what do we do when there's a number outside of parentheses? What do we usually do with a number that's outside of parentheses? We distribute, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to take this -1 and we are going to multiply him by everything behind him. Once we do that, we do not need the parentheses anymore. So this first set of parentheses can just bring down. The second set, we have to multiply everything. So -1 times 4x becomes -4x, yep. -1 times -5, +5. And then -1 times +3x squared, -3x squared. Once we get rid of the negative, once we get rid of those parentheses, we can go back doing what we want to do. Now, what I would do to make the next step easier is, do you see which exponent is the biggest number? I would look for standard form. It helps. If not, you can always just start left to right and rewrite it in standard form later. It is literally up to you. Do you want to just do it, or do you want to put in standard form right away? Ladies, do you have a preference? We can just do it. So if I box the 3, it has no variables on it. Is there any other number here that has no variables on it? 5, so I'm going to box it. Okay, now let's add them together. What do we get? 8, so I'm going to write 8 down. I'm going to switch colors. Now I'm going to change it up. I always do the same order of symbols. I circled an X. Is there anything else that just has an X? -4x, I see it in the middle. So I have -2 x's and -4 x's. So how many do I have now? Yep, -6 x's. And then right here I see a x squared. Do you see anything else with an x squared? -3x squared. I wiggly lined it this time. It's easier to see because triangles are hard, especially with how big I write. So I have +2 minus 3. So what do I have left? +2 minus 3. Yep, so I'm going to write -1 and then write x squared. It helps me out. Now we're going to look at this equation. Now it's only 3 things to look at. Is it in standard form? Is it which one has the greatest exponent on it? This guy, so he needs to be written first. So we need to rewrite it. -1 x squared. Okay, we used him. What has the next biggest one? -6x. And now we have just 8. And since there's nothing in front of it, it's positive. And then, just for practice, what's the degree? 2. What's the leading coefficient there, Katie? -1. And again, we would call this a trinomial. Do you feel good about this enough that you could go to the board and do it? A little bit? Let's do 1. Let's just do 1. Okay? I'll change the variable. You want P or Y? Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, get your target box. Okay. Parentheses. 7p plus 4p to the third power minus 8. Close your parentheses. Subtract parentheses. 3p squared plus 2 minus 9p. What do we need to do first? Distribute that negative to the second group and bring down the first group. Did not give myself enough room though. So when we distribute, we get negative 3p squared minus 2 plus 9p. I had to write it kind of small. So we go left to right. First number has just a p. Does anything else have just a p? The 9 all the way at the end. So we're going to write that first. 9p's plus 7p's is what? Close. 16p's. This next one says 4p to the third. So it says p to the third. Does anything else have p to the third? No. If you have nothing like it, you just bring it down. So plus 4p to the third. That's why I picked this one. The next one, just a number. Anything else here? Just a number, no variables. The minus 2, so I have negative 8 and negative 2. What does that turn into? Negative 10. And then lastly, I see a negative 3p squared. Is there any other p squareds? Nope. So again, just like the other one, I'm going to have to just bring this one down. Now, is this guy in standard form? Definitely not. What's the biggest degree? Yep, 4p to the third. 4p to the third. I used it. I'm going to cross it off. What's the next greatest? Negative 3p squared. After that, so plus 16p. And then last, minus 10. What's the degree on this problem? Degree is 3. What's our leading coefficient? And how would we name him? He's just a polynomial. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at him. Count him. He is a polynomial because he's got 4 terms, and 4 terms does not have a kind of special name. He's just a polynomial. Okay.